Hey everyone, Fresh here. I know it's been a while since I've put a video out, so I thought with the mid-season lull, I could actually take this opportunity maybe to talk about some like kind of min-max things you can do for Protection Warrior damage, kind of as the season is pretty mature at this point, and most people are looking at having mostly best in slot, items. Not completely, but you should be pretty close, I would think, at this point if you've been playing since the beginning of the season and filling up your vault every week. So I realized that this video would end up being really long if I kind of did this all in one video. So I'm actually going to break this up into two videos. So this first video, I'm going to talk about talent choices that can change how much damage you do, that can affect your DPS. And then I'll talk about gear choices in a second video. So this first video will be about talent choices. So we'll kind of just hop into that real quick and break those down. So let's go ahead and hop over to the talents. There's basically three talent choices I kind of want to talk about and kind of break down. So first thing I want to talk about is basically piercing challenge. So this is a talent that a lot of warriors have kind of started dropping, and in fact, it kind of makes sense why you want to drop this. And the reason is because it doesn't add too much damage when you don't have it. The sim difference, I did sim like my character with all of these different talent and gear setups that I'm going to be talking about. But the sim basically gives about 8 to 9,000 DPS for having piercing challenge. So it's not a significant loss if you don't take this. The talent you usually drop in order to take this is usually 1 point in endurance training. So you would drop like 1 point there. You would put 1 point in piercing challenge in order to pick that up. I do think endurance training does have a lot of value. 5% extra stamina comes out to a little bit over 500,000 with my current gear. So, a little more than 500,000. And you have to remember as a warrior, your ignore pain cap is determined by your maximum health. So the more health you have, the higher your ignore pain cap is, meaning that you should, in theory, be mitigating more damage overall in a dungeon or in a raid with that extra HP that you have because you're constantly spamming ignore pain. So the losing basically less than 1% DPS for 5% stamina, I don't think is worth the trade-off. So I would definitely just recommend just take endurance training and don't worry too much about piercing challenge. But if you really want to like super min max your damage, you can drop this and pick up piercing challenge, or you could drop something else if you felt like it. But I don't think there's a lot of other options here that you would want to take. You definitely don't want to drop one-handed weapon specialization. You don't want to drop wild strikes. You don't want to drop any of your avatar talents. You can't drop armor to the teeth. So pretty much your only real choice is dropping endurance training. And yeah, like I said, I think 5% HP, 5% more stamina is better than the slightly more damage you get off of using your champion spear. The other talent choice I want to talk about is over in the protection tree. There's two talent nodes here that will increase your damage at the cost of survivability or potential survivability. So the first one is going to be heavy repercussions versus into the fray. Now, this is actually a significantly higher damage increase than the last talent selection. Basically, when you have into the fray compared to heavy repercussions, it's approximately 40,000 more DPS, so it's about 5% extra damage. So taking heavy repercussions does have a decent DPS loss associated with it, but with my current gear level, I just feel more comfortable taking heavy repercussions. This talent guarantees you will always have shield block up no matter what. So if you ever notice, hey, I'm having shield block, gaps in my uptime when I have into the fray, you can always go back to heavy repercussions, and that will basically help make sure you always have shield block up at all times. So yes, you do lose a little bit of damage there, but I think if you've got gaps, run heavy repercussions. If you don't have gaps, if you feel comfortable enough with having very small gaps in your shield block uptime, you can run into the fray. That does give you that extra damage. The other talent choice with that also has about a 5% damage difference is Battle Scarred Veteran versus Ravager. At the beginning of the season, most people were running Ravager. And Ravager, like I said, it's about 5% X more damage when you do have this talent. But what people didn't know was that Battle Scarred Veteran was actually broke during Dragonflight. That's why warriors weren't taking this. It literally wasn't working correctly. But now that Battle Scarred Veteran is working correctly, it works the way it does. This is an insanely strong defensive cooldown. It's like probably currently the strongest cheap death out of any tank in the game. So certainly, I don't think losing a little bit of damage for like this insane of a defensive cooldown is worth it. So I would say just, drop Ravager, run Battlescarred Veteran. So with all that said, if you took all of the defensive talents that I recommend, so basically 2 out of 2 in endurance training, heavy repercussions, and Battlescarred Veteran. So if you have those 3 talents with the rest of these talents, then my total DPS according to Sims is about 810,000. If I drop the defensive talent, so if I go 1 out of 2 endurance training, pick up piercing challenge, swap heavy repercussions for into the fray, and drop Battlescarred Veteran for Ravager. So if I do it like this talent setup is about 890,000 DPS, so it's about 80,000 more DPS, which is approximately a 10% damage increase. So it is a significant change, but again, like I said, when you're looking at things like utility or survivability as a tank, sometimes your survivability options, especially when they're really strong options, significantly win out. Or if the DPS increase is so minor, like this champion spear versus piercing challenge, the extra like kind of survivability and utility from 5% extra stamina wins out. So anyway, so those are the talents. So thanks everyone for watching. And then the next video, the second video that I'll be doing, I'll be breaking down kind of DPS and defensive value differences with gear. So go ahead and watch that for a little bit more information on min-maxing your damage.